I grew my newsletter to 8,000 subscribers in 1 year. Organically too. No ads, no massive collaborations. I was honestly completely winging it. And I just found out I probably left about 3,000 subscribers on the table because I had no system. A few weeks back, Beehiiv opened up their MCP. I connected to Claude, and then I built a new AI-powered newsletter system. And now every single newsletter decision that I make is backed by actual data. This video is not about creating newsletters with AI. It's about having AI translate your newsletter performance in a way that feels actionable. I know the topics that killed my open rate, what my audience wants to read, and what to write next. I'm gonna show you how to start this entire system right now. And by the end of this video, you're going to have everything that you need to build it for yourself. By the way, I'm using Beehiiv because that's what I personally use for my own business, but this system is guaranteed to work as long as your newsletter platform has an MCP or you're willing to download the data yourself. So this is gonna be good for Kit, Substack, Flowdesk, MailChimp. It doesn't really matter. Here's the number one thing I learned that no one tells you about running a newsletter business. Like, Beehiiv gives you genuinely insane amounts of data. Open rates, click-through rates, subscriber growth, audience location, device breakdown. It's all there. But there's no clean way to connect at all. So most newsletter operators did what I did. We log in, look at the numbers, think, okay, cool. Close those tabs, write the next newsletter based upon what we just did last week. And if you're trying to grow, pitch sponsors, and understand who is in your list, a coin flip is not going to cut it. Because behind the scenes, here's what's quietly happening. Every time you're flying blind, you write topics that don't resonate, and you don't know why. You're leaving sponsorship money on the table because you can't tell a brand who's actually reading your newsletter. And you're repeating the same mistakes time after time, issue after issue, because there's no connective tissue that really brings your data together so you can make better decisions. That's what this system actually is. And it fixes everything. So let's get into it. This is what I call the newsletter intelligence system. And yes, it's a Google sheet, but don't let that fool you. This thing auto updates every single week until in more than 10 seconds and 2 hours of manually digging through the data myself. Let's get into it. So top line view first, I have a rolling 8-week benchmark, and every issue I publish in this sheet automatically updates. So I'm looking at the last 8 issues side by side. Growth rate, open rate, click-through rate, even I gave it a performance grade. This was big for me because I wanted a way to quantify performance across the board. So it gives me a number score, but also a letter grade A through D. So now there's number guessing if this issue did okay or not, either gained an A or didn't. I'm aiming for a B+ though, if I'm being honest. Now this tab, this part I was not expecting. This is the audience intelligence profile. So Beehiiv collects a ton of signals, right? EDU addresses, corporate domains, LinkedIn referral data, and the system takes all of that and builds a demographic picture of my audience. So I'm looking at the age ranges, estimated seniority levels, top companies they work at, income bracket estimates, a geographical breakdown, and even their email providers. Now, here's why that matters. The next time you go to pitch a newsletter sponsor, you're not just saying, I have 8,000 subscribers, give me money. You're saying my audience is built up of primarily 25 to 34-year-olds in the marketing profession and founders. 23% of them have corporate email addresses, and here are the top 5 companies they work at. That's a pitch that gains real emails. Through this, I found that people from Vayner, HubSpot, Adobe, and Google were following my newsletter. That is powerful data to give to sponsors. That's a pitch that closes deals. So the next tab, the data tab. This is my source of truth for everything. Every single issue lives here. Publishing time, sponsors from that previous week, delivery rates, open rates, click-through rates, all in one row. And this is where the system earns its keeps, a learning hub. So every week, this answers 3 questions. One of my latest issues had the lowest letter grades I received all year. Now, before this system, I would just look at the open rate, thought it was bad, and moved on. Maybe I changed a couple of things. But with the Learning Hub, it told me something specific. How to and tutorial framing consistently outperform opinion framings from your top 3 issues. So that's an action I can take in next week's newsletter, not just a number that makes me feel bad. Real quick, if you want more content playbooks like this one, hit subscribe. This is exactly the kind of system level breakdowns I provide every single week. But let's get back to the build. Cool data, bro, but how does this connect? So Beehiiv just opened up their MCP, which basically means I have a direct connection from Beehiiv to the actual tools in my system. It pulls data, it creates segments, it runs automations. Now, when I connect Claude Cowork, Claude basically pulls my newsletter data, analyzes it, and then updates my dashboard automatically every single week. So FYI, this MCP is currently in beta as I'm filming this. So you must apply for it, but once you're approved, you can easily implement it within Claude, ChatGPT, whatever you want. Now, this next thing takes your newsletter to the next level. So this is what it looks like. I tell Claude, here's my Beehiiv URL, pull the last 8 issues, analyze performance, create this dashboard. Now, I chose Google Sheets. You can choose Notion, you can choose ClickUp, doesn't really matter. And it built all this for me using the Chrome browser extension and like some coding tools. So there's no manual data entry from my side. I'm not copying numbers. Claude is handling all of this for me. Now, I know that sounds like a lot. So I actually built a Notion page with the full prompt that I use and exact language that I use. And I even marked the parts in red that you need to customize. That's also linked in the description and it's completely free. Now, 2 things to know before you start. 1, like I mentioned, the Beehiiv MCP is very new. You must apply for this, and not every tier has access, so check your plan first. Number 2, Claude Cowork is for pro and max users, so there is a cost there, but it's like $20 a month. But if your newsletter is something that you are seriously building, this is one of the highest return setups I have within my entire business system. Let me show you what I'm actually changing right now because of this system. So a couple of weeks ago, I had an email underperform. Open rate was 4 points below my 8-week average. The Learning Hub flagged that in the same day, and then I took that data and it gave me options for how to improve it next week. So now the next issue, I'm back to the tutorial framing. I even had Claude build me out a segmentation within my Beehiiv from inactive subscribers, people who haven't opened it in the past like 60 days. Claude then built the entire segmentation for me through their Chrome extension. And now I'm running a re-engagement campaign that Claude also did as like a 6% click-through rate. Before this, it would have took me like a day and a half to do all of this. Now I did it within like 60 to 90 minutes. But lucky for you, it's gonna take like 30. Here's the one thing I want you to take from this video. So most newsletter operators are running blind like I did. They check their open rates once a week. They feel good or bad about the numbers, and then they do the exact same thing again. There's nothing actually connecting your data and what you should be doing next. And that gap, I think, is like the biggest downfall when it comes to connecting data to decisions. And that's where most newsletters honestly don't win. This system doesn't make your newsletter better by itself. It makes your decisions better, and better decisions made consistently week over week compound to real growth. The Notion page with the full prompt and set of workflow is free, like I mentioned, so go check that out in the description. And if this system level breakdown is something that you really want, hit subscribe. This is exactly what I cover on this channel every single week. Let's get to work.